Hi, my name is Shannon Pakulis, and I am the social media manager for the Canada Ravens. And today I am speaking with Alanna Fittes. Just so everybody knows, her last name is Fittes, not Fitz. I made that mistake, and I apologize.
Thank you.
It's Fittes.
Yeah, Fittes. Yeah, thank you.
How are you today, Alanna?
I am great, Shannon. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, thank you. So why don't you begin by introducing yourself a little bit and talking about your rugby career and how you got into rugby?
Sure. Okay, so it's a bit long, been all over the map. I grew up in a small town, and then I moved to Edmonton after playing high school for years. I moved to Edmonton to go to U of A for my undergraduate degree, where I was there for 5 years, but I only played for 4 just due to injury. Had a really great time doing that. Took a couple years off to work, and then in 2017, I went back to U of A to complete my master's degree in coaching. And then I did one last year with the U of A Pandas there. And now I graduated from that. And so I'm just a graduate student living in a pandemic. And a few years ago, when it was the World Cup for the Ravens, that's when I decided that, maybe union looks like league is a better sport for me. So then I was pursuing the World Cup for that. And then I was actually lucky enough to go play with the Ravens in the Commonwealth Championships in Brisbane, Australia. So that's me.
Exciting. So basically, I wanted to talk to you today because I am interested in why athletes are going vegan or plant-based. And athletes have always been told if you want to be strong, you have to eat meat, you have to have all this protein. But I kind of want to figure out how athletes are feeling and how they believe their endurance or performance has improved since going plant-based or vegan. So when did you start this transition and why?
Great question. So I've kind of always dabbled with it just as I was kind of growing up, and didn't really know what I should eat or where I should eat. I was always kind of well, vegetarian just seems like it's right for me. And then I was and then it would seem like it was so hard and complicated. So I'd dabble and then just give up. And I was like, what a waste or whatever. And then what is it now? 2021 and 2017. Yeah. I started getting, I don't know if you heard of the meal service delivery called Chef's Plate.
Okay, yeah.
So I started getting those, and it was it's cool. It's a really cool little program. Just wanted to try it out. And then I started trying out the vegetarian dishes. And what I found out is that from that company, the vegetarian ones, you get more food for it was cheaper. And I was like, well, this is perfect. This is everything that I wanted. So it just kind of naturally grew from there, where I would just kind of tried it out. And I was like, well, this really works for me. And I'm getting more food from this one company for less money. So cool. And then it just progressed into where I am now, where I would say I'm plant-based. I don't eat meat unless it's really ethically sourced, but primarily only eat vegetables and beans and legumes and things.
It's interesting that you say it's costed less for you, because a lot of people, when they go vegetarian or vegan, they're complaining that it costs so much more. And a lot of the times that's because people are buying the meat substitutes, which are expensive. But it can be cheaper actually.
Yeah, I think so I don't eat the meat substitutes. I try and stay far away from them as possible because they taste bad. And they're processed. That's just the simplest thing. It's just it just tastes they taste bad for a reason, because they're not meant to be in your body, especially not all the time. And then I've kind of was when I was thinking about this little interview, I was like, I wonder if it is actually cheaper. And I was just thinking about it. And if you're gonna go to the grocery store and you get, let's say, bacon, chicken, eggs, and then all of your vegetables, great. But you just take out all of the main meats and you just take the vegetables so you're just saving money kind of that way. That's the way I like to look at it. It's just, it's just where you spend your money as well. So rather than getting, I'll get supplements rather than getting a whole pile of meat that I maybe don't know where it's coming from or whatever. So.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, the substitute beef patties. They are so expensive, but what you can do is, if you have the time, of course, you can just make a bean burger patty. Yeah. And beans are so cheap, and yeah, so it can be cheaper in a lot of cases.
Definitely. It's a lot harder work because you have to think about what you're eating and why. That's kind of what I've learned. Whereas if it's just a traditional diet, you just kind of eat and it's like, cool, I'm going to eat all of this and be happy. But I think that's why I think it's a really beneficial sort of, it's like a very conscious eating. You're very aware of what you're having and why you're having it. And it's not just kind of like a free for all. So that's also why it's working more for me, because I'm more aware of what my body needs in terms of energy and fats and carbohydrates or whatever it is. Like I just am more aware of what food it is, so I know what to eat, and it's just just works better for me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say why, why people are doing this as well. And I have made the transition, and it's been a very confusing process for me as well, because I had the idea that if you're going vegan, like you have to do it full on from day one. If you eat meat once, then that's it, it's over. But that's not the case. I realized that for the most part, what I do is try to be plant-based, but if someone makes me a dinner and there's meat included, or if food is going to be wasted, for example, like that is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, is when food is wasted, especially, an animal that has died and it's going to be wasted. So in that case, I was like, it doesn't make sense to me to not eat it in that sense. So I guess, a lot of people are a little bit confused or eat a certain way, but I think that if you decide to be vegan or plant-based and you do eat meat, it doesn't mean you have to start all over again. It is a process.
Totally. It's absolutely a process where like it doesn't have to be you're one or the other, or you're wrong for doing it. It's like you said, it's a conscious decision. Why are we doing this? Am I going to be wasting something that like died so I could eat it, or am I not going to? And it's definitely just an awareness and a consciousness of what you're eating. And I think that's very valuable and much more important than just the amount of what you're, and like measuring things or the quantity or whatever it is. I think the awareness of what you're consuming is far outweighs anything else kind of in the decision making process.
Yeah. So I know you've had a few injuries in the past as well. Have you noticed your diet having any contribution to recovery?
Oh, that's a good question. So knock on wood, I don't know. I've been lucky enough to be healthy for this past year. but I like what I've noticed, and especially so I've done my knee. Well, both knees, one has surgery, one no surgery. And it's like, what I noticed is that the better it's joints, my joints feel better and they glide better. And I think and I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a bit, like if I said it's a better quality of like everything that I'm eating, or if it's strictly because I'm not eating meat. I couldn't tell you, but what I know for sure, and especially what I've noticed over this past 6 or 7 months, because I've been really, really deliberate with, and I was going to sound so pretentious. I know who I am. Like it's like organic, or I grow it myself, or, like I take time, and I just noticed that, like my knees aren't as sore, or like my body is moving better, or my time to recovery in between workouts in a day, like it's it's faster. I have more energy readily available. So that's definitely the biggest thing I've noticed. And it's not big, or I'm like, well, I'm so strong, I'm the best. It's just the little subtle things, the day to day, which I think, even if you're not an athlete, just like the longevity of your life, if you can feel better every day, then you perform better, you train better, everything kind of builds off of that.
That's interesting. I've never heard someone make that point about your joints feeling better, but that is a big one, especially if you're an athlete, if you're a runner.
Yeah.
And it makes me think back to this time like I said, I've been a bit confused about like my eating habits and if I'm vegan, if I'm vegetarian, but I know that there's this one summer I was working in a factory, 10-hour shifts. You know, I was in the middle of nowhere pretty much, away from family and friends, but I just needed to pay for school. So I had this well-paying summer job. And I decided that at this point of time, I was going to go vegan and just kind of try it. I had total control over what I was eating. I didn't really like have family or friends around, so no one was really influencing what I was eating. And I remember being at work and I just felt so good. And I don't think I should have felt that good because I'm in a factory. It was hot, like there's no windows around. But I was just wondering, why do I feel so good? And I realized like for a full, at least full 2 weeks, I was fully vegan. I was exercising, I was drinking water and sleeping well. And that was, I think, the moment that it clicked for me that diet has everything to do with how you feel.
Definitely.
And I think that was when I really started trying more to be healthier and inform myself, which is why I want to speak to other athletes who are making this transition and seeing how they feel.
Yeah, it's interesting because were you feeling great because you're vegan, or was it because you eliminated like other things that you just shouldn't be eating that are like really bad for you anyways? And it's a little bit of both, right?
Exactly.
But I like what I think is so fascinating is that you can make like one simple change and then you can notice the effects. Like it's just noticeable when you and I notice it especially with like just for the sake, because we're talking about not eating meat. When you don't have like factory meat, you just feel better. And that makes sense because like a sad cow, a sad human, you know what I mean? Like it just makes it's so intuitive. And it's really easy to educate yourself as well, I think. Or just to ask people, like everyone wants to talk about it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are more of a spiritual person as well, I know spiritual people believe in energy and vibes. And yeah, if you're eating an animal that's like begging for its life before it dies, a lot of people don't want that energy in them. So that's another reason I know a lot of people why they would go vegan or plant-based.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest challenge for you?
Man, chicken wings. Like honestly, that's just like the straightest thing. I could give or take a steak, whatever. I don't care about that. And like you go out with friends and you go to a restaurant, there's always something, you can always find something to eat or whatever. But it's just like the little, I just like I'd love, I haven't done it in a very long time, but I used to love just like going out on a Wednesday and like crushing wings. You know what I mean? Like I just love them.
Oh, I've been there. I've been there. It used to be a challenge for me to see how many wings I could eat each time. And I always tried to beat everyone else at the table.
I know. And then it's like a saucy mess. And then sometimes you get a dry wing and you're like choking on, I know. So
yeah,
that's kind of like the vice that I miss. The challenging part for me especially is like iron levels, and because like I'm just anemic, like kind of tend to that side. And then if you don't have enough like meat and iron supplements, then it's just like, you go that really far. So that's kind of been a really challenging aspect for me. But I've every now and then I'll take like an iron supplement if I feel like I'm really tired or if I need it. Or I'll just like have eggs because that's who I am. Like but that's like that's the thing. If I know if I'm feeling really tired and if I haven't really been properly eating, then it's probably because I have low iron. So
yeah, a lot of people actually have said this as well, like the iron levels. Megan Gosling actually just said it when I had the interview with her as well. And I'll tell you the same story I told her was when I was in at that time in my life. I went to donate blood and I knew that I needed to have high iron levels. And so I did a bunch of research, like how can I get the iron and I'm not eating meat? And it's through spinach, dark chocolate, surprisingly as well. So there's a lot of different options out there. And so I just did as much as I could before donating blood because I didn't want to go and then be turned away. And when the nurse checked my iron levels, she said, "Oh, like it's really high. You must be eating, yeah, you must be eating a lot of red meat." And I laughed. I told her that I was vegan at the time. So she was totally surprised by that. I was surprised by that as well, because everyone makes this point about low iron levels, but yeah, it can be tricky, but I do think it is about doing the research, knowing what you're putting into your body.
That's funny that when you went to give blood, that like, so the exact same thing happened to me, but I went to give blood and I just like walked in there and they were like, you have no iron. And I was like, I'm wasting away. And then I went like 4 months ago and I gave blood and I did the same thing as you. Like I just crushed a bunch of spinach and dark chocolate and just like ate a whole bunch of really good things. And then I was just the exact same thing. The iron was like through the roof. So
yeah. And it feels good. It feels good.
Yeah.
Another thing, I transitioned to pea protein instead of whey protein, and I noticed that has so much iron in it as well compared to whey protein. So that was another thing. Like it was just protein shakes leading up to donating blood.
Yeah, that's I've never had pea protein. Like I'm not vegan. I just haven't gone that far, you know what I mean? But I mean pea protein sounds like it's a good option.
Yeah, it doesn't taste as good, so you have to put it in smoothies, but I like the fact that it has, a lot of iron, for example, and lower amounts of sugar. But yeah, I'm also interested, what reactions do you get from other people when you say that, you're plant-based?
They just kind of like look. And then they go, why? And it's like, well, because blah, blah, blah. And you give them a whole long story. But and also like the biggest reaction I get is from family. Like my friends, they know, right? They're like, oh, she's Alanna, she's doing weird things. Like she's eating weird things, whatever. Like you go to town. But if you like go, like I went and visited my grandparents a while ago, long time ago. Or like my parents and I said, oh, like I'm not eating meat, like that's okay. And they just like could not compute that was even an option. They weren't like, they didn't judge me. They were just like, why would you do something so foolish? So
yeah, I've had that reaction as well. So what advice would you give to athletes who want to make this transition?
What advice would I give? Read as much as you can or learn as much as you can before you start. And then you don't have to do everything at once. If it's genuinely a lifestyle change that you want to make, or if it's something that you're really interested in, it's about creating and instilling a habit within you that you want to follow and that drives you. And if meat works or doesn't work, and if you're wanting to change it and you've noticed that maybe it's like, you're like, oh, like I like eggs and fish, or I don't like any of that because it makes me feel bad. Like just follow what feels best. And then make sure that you know that what other supplements that you need to take. And that you also don't have to break the bank on those and do all of those all at once as well. So it's kind of like a moderate, like do the little things that you can control at the time of, or like in certain increments, and then like slowly add things.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. Definitely. Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
What was I thinking about when we were talking about this? I eat a lot of butter. I don't know. I know that's not vegan, but I like lots of butter and lots of butter on almost everything that I have. Because you just need that fat content, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a one thing that I wanted to put a plug in. Like there's nothing wrong with like really good grass-fed butter if you have it.
Yeah, interesting. Never been a big butter person because there's so many different opinions about butter, but I do love the taste of butter.
Yeah, it tastes good for a reason because it's full of fat, and I don't get enough in my diet. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not gonna just like go out and like scoop fat. Man, that'd be bizarre, right?
Yeah, I know a guy who once said he took like a shot of olive oil just to get that amount of fat that he needed. And I was like, okay, interesting. Whatever you need to do.
Put it in a salad. I don't know, make a dressing. It's the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Alanna. I appreciate speaking with you today.
It was really fun.
Thank you. And good luck with your whole rugby career.
Ooh, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. It's we're coming up close to November. It's closer than it seems, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. The World Cup. So we'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully COVID is over by then, but
Yeah,
it'll
well,
be it'll be
we'll train
exciting.
for it anyways. That's what I'm prepared for.
Exactly. Well, thanks again.
No problem.